Okay, right to work today, and we welcome you to the Modern Eater Show. It is July 29th. It's a 2020, and it's not to use a pun, a sobering day. And we're at Studio Kitchen, Colorado. Greg Hollenback, Brian Freeman, Jay Parker will welcome our guests right to the stream right away. Zoomed into this show today, we've got Miss Sonia Riggs, President and CEO of the Colorado Restaurant Association. Welcome to the show, Sonia.
Thank you.
Yeah, good to see you. And Mark Burzins comes in from Little Pub Company and the Tavern League today. And here's the announcement. Ruling in the district court upheld 10 p.m. last call from the governor's office, and 50 capacity is what was being challenged. Both of those are held up. 10 p.m. last call will stand for the remainder of the 30 days. And 50% capacity is not going away anytime soon, it looks like. We're going to talk in reaction. I'm going to go to you right now, Sonia, and just initially, what are you hearing, and what does that sound like to you?
Well, I mean, it's this is a tough industry to be in right now, as I think they made very clear. I heard the judge say how impactful I think their testimony was in the stories. And, we've been hearing those same things from restaurants. I mean, it's a really hard time for these folks. And we've been telling the governor's office for quite some time now. In fact, ever since we first heard about this 50-person capacity, how devastating this is to this industry who'd already had to be shut down for quite a period of time. So certainly, we want to see things open up as quickly as possible. And it's the longer they go, the longer we're going to see people the more people we're going to see go out of business permanently. And it's a scary thought.
It's a very scary thought. I want to go to you right now, Mark, and talk your standpoint, who you were at the hearings for the past 2 days. So I want to defer to you to just kind of set this up. First of all, the grievance was 10 p.m. last call needs to be revised or go away or just loosened, and then the 50% capacity is what was at the beginning grievance that was added on from there. But if you could just set the stage for us on really what this whole process looked like, and then we know what the outcome is as of today.
Well, obviously, anytime you decide to take on the government, you're fighting an uphill battle. And certainly part of our reluctance to challenge any of these orders, there's really two pieces. Number one, you're reluctant to challenge the order because we all want to do our part, even as much as we've sacrificed as an industry. Everyone I know in the industry really has said, hey, we knew we had to do what we had to do. And we really believe that was grounded in sound reasoning, and I do believe it was. And so, much to the governor's credit, he successfully led Colorado through a time period that saw Texas, Florida, a number of other states have to walk back the reopening. And so that was really well done, and I think our industry acknowledged that. But one of the things that was a part of that initial order was this capacity issue. I think anyone with some logic can understand, hey, fire code relates to how many people you can safely have in your space. If you're limited to 50% of your fire code, you have half as many people. That's automatic 50% social distancing right there. So there was a sort of a straight line we could draw. The problem and a lot of the inequity came if you got up over 100 occupancy in your space. You're paying $35 a square foot for space that you're not getting the same bang for the buck as the little guy. And so I was aware of this just because some of our stores, we do have a few stores that are larger and that have capacities over 100. Most of our stores have capacities around 100. I actually could see this unfolding in real time within my own platform. My little stores are almost like the mammals after the asteroid strike. They're little. They're sort of able to thrive on very little resources, and they're gonna they're going to kind of emerge from that nuclear winter. And the large stores, the large-bodied beings are going to starve. And so the crazy part about the over 50 capacity thing is it becomes a little bit nonsensical. And everyone was curious to have a better explanation from the state. Why would a bar like the Spot Bar with 1,600 square feet and a 72-person capacity be able to safely host 36 people under this order, yet the Blake Street Tavern, which I just happen to know the Blake Street Tavern's footage because it's been in court for the last couple of days, is 8 times larger than the Spot. 10 times larger, actually. 10 times larger than the Spot. He can only have 100 people in his building. And so you think, hold it, 10 times smaller, 36 patrons. You might be able to eke out at least break even out of that. 100 patrons in 10 times that space, that's just not going to work. And so the state didn't do a good job, I don't think, explaining the logic behind why are we capping this at 100. And one of the things that did come out of testimony is this idea, hey, the more people you have in one space, the greater the chance you could have a major spreading event. And that the first time we heard that was really here at trial. So there was some value in that. They still really struggled to explain why social distancing, why the 6-foot rule doesn't apply as you get these larger and larger spaces, but they consider it perfectly adequate on the transmission end in smaller space. Really struggled to tackle that, and they did cite a piece of evidence that's been driving me crazy, and we finally got to work it in today. It was quite the zinger. A lot of our experts across the country are relying on this incident where there was an infected person in a restaurant, and they actually spread it to almost everyone in this little restaurant, even though they were beyond 6 feet. And they blamed this on this aerosol hypothesis that it's not just the droplets, but, like perfume, you could aerosol spray this around a room. And if there's poor ventilation or ventilation spreading it around the room, everyone could eventually get it. And that is all based on a singular contact tracing incident in a restaurant in China. And when you think of, if you just imagine the building codes in China, and you imagine the building codes we all live with here in Colorado, it's almost laughable to draw a ventilation comparison between what I must assume this restaurant in China looked like and the multi-ton units that we all buy and pay for on the roofs of our restaurants. And so we did manage today.
Was that cited as evidence?
It was. It was cited this afternoon as evidence by Casey Wolf, who's one of the governor's top advisors. She mentioned, well, you could potentially have this happen in an 18,000 square foot space where it could spread to everybody as it did in this restaurant that's cited in some research. And so I managed to slip a note in the nick of time to our counsel, and he actually said, is that research based on a restaurant in China? And Ms. Wolf actually acknowledged, yes, it is based on a ventilation setup, but basically a dining setup that is in a foreign country and certainly is going to have vastly different air exchange requirements versus what we have here in the States.
Let me do a quick reset here. As the Front Range reacts, the verdict is in, and I think a lot of the past 2 days was really just a discovery session. Turned out to be like, what are these facts and figures that you have that you're making these arbitrary decisions off of? And that's the voice of Mark Berzins and Little Pub Company. And We also have Sonia Riggs, Colorado Restaurant Association, with us. We're looking at what this past 2 days was. It means a lot right now. There's a lot to these types of things. Did you get any sort of feeling that there was a larger picture here, that if these 2 items were overturned, that might set a precedent or poke holes in anything else that the governor would do future-wise, as far as mandates that are passed down?
Well, I think we should be clear to everyone in our industry who's hoping to see a little more equity in these decisions. This was a preliminary hearing, so we absolutely have the right both to appeal our denial of an injunction and to take this to trial. Heading into this, we had hoped, hey, we want to find out what's the data. Our governor has said he uses data and science to drive these decisions, and obviously as a longtime operator and someone who advocates for everyone in our industry, I really helped fund this because I wanted to know what is the data, what are we not seeing as operators. Everyone I know is working so hard on compliance. Everyone I know is spending money and time and training their staffs and is really working on 100% compliance. And all of our data, including Sonia's data, which is excellent, indicates enormously high levels of compliance. And so we knew by filing this, we would have this preliminary hearing, and we had hoped to have some more real evidence from the state. Hey, what are they basing it on?
Anything stand out?
We haven't really entered the discovery phase, but the state had to produce some data, and it was very limited. The state came in really with from a vantage point of, we have to prove that there was no rational foundation for either of these decisions. We have to prove that. So the burden of proof is on us as the plaintiff. So in other words, they don't have to really defend themselves beyond saying, we had a couple experts who thought it was a good idea, and if that's the only rationale, as long as it's not irrational, the governor sort of he very much gets to do what he wants.
I want to turn to Sonia Riggs here for a moment from the Colorado Restaurant Association. In the news, I've heard a couple of things. One of them, Chris Fuselier, speaking about this conversation, and maybe you could clear this up, a conversation that you had with the governor that was just a quick phone call asking about restaurants and what time do they usually close and is it 10 p.m. or midnight. It's a conversation that I'm hearing second and third party. Do you mind sharing that conversation, and then we'll get into really statistics and what data that the Colorado Restaurant Association has been asked for by the governor's office to help support some of the decisions that they've made?
Sure, and I was surprised when I heard them talk about this in the testimony. I was listening to part of the hearing today and yesterday, and when I heard that, I thought, what? They referred to it as that he was consulting with us, and it was basically a quick phone call where he said, hey, what time do restaurants tend to close? Isn't it 10 o'clock? And I said, wait. A lot of restaurants are closing and bars are closing later at this point because of sports, coming up. They're having to expand their hours because of their lack of capacity. They're doing other creative things to stay open. I said, can you give us some time to put together some information for you before you make any decisions on what you're thinking about doing? And he said, yes. And then the next thing we know, the announcement was made. So in my book, that's not consulting. In fact, I even said to some of my staff and some other allied groups I work with, it was a confusing call. I'm concerned that something's going to be done now, and I don't know what he was trying to say or not say. So
do you feel like it was just a check a box phone call?
I don't know. I mean, it felt like it, especially now that I'm hearing that they were referring to it as consulting. I wouldn't have considered it that. But, listen, I certainly appreciate any time they reach out. That being said, what I'm hoping that this will lead to is a bigger conversation. We've already been having some conversations with the governor's office, as I believe the Tavern League has as well. But what I'm hoping this will lead to is a bigger conversation in that, they're acknowledging, and it was widely acknowledged today, but I think everybody, that this industry is getting killed, and through no fault of their own, that they are highly compliant. You mentioned the high compliance with customers and with mask wearing. And that was, by the way, before the statewide mask order even came out, that people were being relatively compliant. Obviously, we know that restaurants and bars have already gone, for the most part, above and beyond in making sure that their customers and their staff feel safe. But where I'm hoping that the governor's office will really take a look at things is to say, we acknowledge that this industry is hurting through no fault of their own, and what are some other things that we can do to help them survive the next few months? And frankly, through the winter, which it was something that we're all very nervous about what that's going to look like when you're not going to have that extra outdoor seating. So
were there answers to that?
That's our hope. Huh?
Well, I'm just wondering, and I really appreciate that, because we do need to start looking to the next couple of quarters, beginning of next year as well. What's that going to look like as we sit with Mark Berzins and you're crunching the numbers? Luckily, in an organization like yours, you can take one of those smaller places. I mean, you can spread it out, the loss, which is not the ideal situation. When you look at attrition with other singular operations, they might not have that luxury and close subsequently.
It's.
Were you called to testify?
I was the first to testify.
Yeah. Was there ever it brought up in conversation how we identified 20 to 29-year-olds and getting intoxicated and not social distancing is really the crux of what the governor is going at here. Was there any conversation about a highly regulated industry and sober people serving and being able to police these groups of people that are high-risk groups a little bit better than what the alternative will be to pushing them into the shadows or the darkness to party amongst their own?
Yeah, there was quite a bit of discussion on exactly that, including with the epidemiologist, Dr. Herlihy. And again, there are a lot of interesting takeaways from this process that you wish we would get more from the governor's office. One of the things we learned is the July 4th surge very much so was pinned on private events, young people congregating together at other than bars and restaurants. They have some direct linkage to that. That's not to say there wasn't some 20 to 29-year-olds going to bars, but they acknowledged that piece of it. Interestingly, they said that the doctor testified she would rather have a group of friends, sort of one social circle, gather privately than have numerous smaller social circles gather in a public space. And
shut the front door.
That
was
the testimony.
That was testimony
from
the state.
Yes, we actually asked the question, would you rather have a free-for-all in someone's basement, no masks, no sanitizer, everyone drinking out of the same solo cups, the beer pong scenario?
Yeah.
Or would you rather have them in a regulated, professionally run establishment?
I'll tell you what, we're coincidentally enough, and he's been our spirit guide through this, but Dr. William Blanchette from Boulder Internal Medicine is joining us today after this conversation for just that. Yeah. I'm going to pose those exact same questions to our doctor, Dr. Blanchette, and I'm sure that it's very subjective. You can go from doctor to doctor, and you're going to hear whatever you want. I mean, that's how it is. You can get a tobacco company to get a doctor to testify that smoking cigarettes is just fine for you. So that evidence collaboration for the state, I get that, but seemingly as we're all deflated today and picking up the pieces from this ruling, it did hold up. 10 p.m. last call and 50% capacity. It seems to me like this was a slam dunk. This was a slam dunk to be overturned.
when we went into this, I figured one of two things would happen. I thought we're going to overturn these two seemingly random things, or the government's going to show us real evidence that lays these things at the feet of large capacity facilities and after 10 p.m. restaurant and bar going behavior. And there was a part of me that really thought if they produce strong evidence and causality that can link this to our industry, I'm going to take that like a man. I'm going to say, hey,
10-4.
Then this is just. And I would be here sitting in front of everyone right now saying, hey, this is contributing appreciably, and we've got to let it go.
But to be clear,
I did not, especially on the 10 p.m. It was so flimsy. It was almost. There were numerous points during this process when I actually felt embarrassed for the attorneys for the state, because it was so thin, and
so as we kick the rock down the road here, and we know we have to work with these governing bodies closely. I mean, we definitely do. So we can't cry over spilled milk, and obviously anything else. We know that if something else is to be challenged regarding restaurants in the future, chances are it's going to be upheld.
We will probably have very serious conversations about taking this to trial, just because
to a higher court.
No, this same judge will hear this at a trial.
I'm not so sure you want that.
And we will have extensive discovery rights, which will include at that point we can subpoena and get Zoom calls between the governor and his staff. We can get internal emails. None of that had to be provided by the state at this initial preliminary hearing. We will 100% as an industry be entitled to have all of these people undress in front of us.
Squeeze, though?
I was just going to ask, is that really your best use of money? Because by the time anything's
30
really
days.
done, it's going to be over.
I think they're counting on that to some extent, and and these are precious dollars for all of us. I mean, we have operators writing $100 checks to the Tavern League saying, go get them. I'm much more concerned as a citizen that I had really thought I'd find a high degree of thoughtfulness behind these decisions. There's no doubt that the staff that's making these decisions are highly qualified and highly competent. I just thought before you would further damage our sector, there would have been really strong data and a really well thought out process behind it. And the most disheartening thing about this trial was we learned quite the opposite. This was almost like there was a panicky moment. There's a bunch of buttons on this console. You see that the 20 to 29-year-old demographic is surging, and you Google search bars. This is truly how they did it. They used a cell phone tracking aggregate company and said, where are 20 to 29-year-olds after 10 o'clock? And they correlated some of those dots to bars and restaurants, and they hit that button. And we reminded them, lots of the workers in our industry are 20 to 29 years old. You're following their phones too. Lots of our bars are next door to liquor stores. How do you know? And they did not really have to furnish that because the burden of disproof was on us.
Sonia, where do we go from here?
Well, I hope we go with more extensive conversations with the governor's office about how to help get this industry through the next year. I think that's going to happen because obviously we're continuing to work on this on a local, state, and federal level. I think is going to be the biggest key as people are following the meetings that are happening in the Congress and Senate, where people need money. But where I'm hoping that this will go is that the governor's office will be open to having bigger and broader conversations with what can we do to help this industry survive? What does the winter look like? What obviously keeping people safe, which I know that Mark and the folks that he's working with as well also want to do. Everybody, you know, we've heard from many restaurants who want to keep their employees safe as well. So, you know, that I think that's important to note that these restaurants and bars want to keep people safe. It's what does our state look like in a year if 50% close? And I'll tell you, Greg, I mean, you know, not only what do our communities look like, but what does the employment rate look like? We're 10% of the industry. So, and from our calculations, at least 87,000 employees in the restaurant industry are still out of a job right now because of the limited capacity of those who have had to close permanently. And those, you know, I think that's just going to get worse as we see more and more permanently closed, unfortunately. And I'm really, really hoping that we get more of an opportunity to have some bigger conversations on how can we collectively come together to support this industry so that they can make it. And that's our biggest concern, is just helping people stay open.
Yeah, and it's interesting with these regulatory bodies and bureaucrats and governmental officials. We've got to be able to work well with them. I mean, you just have to be able to move forward in a very cohesive, synergistic way. And so what are the lessons that we've learned here? Are there any?
Well, I can tell you one thing that again, the disappointment for me is really not in losing this. I expected to lose. Our attorney had said, we have to basically, the state doesn't have to do anything. We have to show that they have not one shred of rational reason to do anything.
But you were hoping to walk into dominating evidence that would say, here it is. You wanted it. We're going to give it to you. So the shallow depth of what you got back out of was very deflating.
That was deflating. But at one point, our attorney asked Casey Wolf, who, again, this is really the top advisor on all this to the governor. He said, what are you doing? What are you doing for this industry? And her answers were so hollow. It was, we are referring people to our website for PPP loans. We're referring people. They're basically suggesting, hey, you guys can borrow more money. Why don't you guys go out and borrow more money to keep yourselves afloat? And I really, and I know I said this, I believe, on the last time I was a guest, over and over again during our epidemiologist testimony. She was saying outdoor air is 20 times safer than indoor air. And I kept hoping someone at the state level would give an indication. We are working on potential solutions to make indoor air safer. We are studying low-cost ways to make your indoor environment safer. When we talk about how we're going to survive the fall and the winter, everyone in our industry, it is going to come down to indoor air quality. That's the solution to capacity.
I will tell you, I have seen that on the web already. That air filter manufacturers. That's the biggest thing that they're working on for restaurants right now.
Or the perception, because let's face it, everything is optics right now. We don't know when the COVID is that one thing that can't be seen, it can't be smelled, it can't be detected, it can't be anything. So it's the eminence that's intruding us all, and so everything is comfort at this point. And data, which is really interesting that we get back to data, and some of the best data that is gathered is from the Colorado Restaurant Association and the team with Sonia Riggs. And with the governor's office, again, this is speculatory, Sonia, but do you believe the governor's office has much affinity for the restaurant industry? Are we an afterthought? Is this something that there's just not – it seems like there's not very much education in the governor's office when it comes?
I don't think we're an afterthought. I mean, we've had some very positive conversations, and even over the last couple of weeks, where they've said to us more than once, and I know a number of people on the governor's staff have said, listen, they understand, and they're trying to avoid closures. What they've said to us, I've had a number of people say they're putting these things in place to try to avoid actual closures, as we've seen happen elsewhere, like California, New Mexico. and I suspect, we may see more of around the United States. But so if we can avoid that, certainly that's our hope. And they, from the folks I've spoken to, they've said that they understand that this industry is hurting. Mm-hmm. Like I said, where I'd really like to see some progress is more of a dialogue about how they can help in some way. And I realize, listen, their budget is suffering just as much, as everybody else's. But having that, very close dialogue with the industry directly on what can we do to just help, and we can let's get creative. Are there some things that we can do to make sure that people feel safe, and that people are safe, obviously, and that this industry, we want to keep this industry alive. It's going to impact it already is, our communities and our workforce in a major way if we cannot figure out a way to keep this industry alive.
Well, shouldn't though we be the ones presenting this, you guys? In some ways, I want to ask that. How do we be proactive?
Listen, Brian, here I got the answer for, and
Brian, we already have given a lot of ideas, and I'm happy to forward you the many ideas that we've already given. And what I'm asking for is let's now talk about how to and whether they're open to implementing which of those ideas. But we've already got a lot, and I'm sure we can come up with more. But we've communicated them.
We'll do a whole show on that. Send those over. I'd love to just kick those around.
Sure.
One of the reasons why we felt it was so important, especially this year, to do it right, not only to show Denver, but to show Colorado, to show the nation and the world how to dine safely, how to dine right, how to provide an experience. Summer Dinner Series has been doing just that. Every single week we have a different chef use ingredients that are local. We're showing how to keep money local, to support each other with our neighbors, to do outdoor alfresco dining at its finest with physical distancing, and then bring that social tie. Put that ribbon around it to where everybody feel connected once again in community. Yeah. There are ways to do it. There are ways to be responsible. It's up to us individually, and I think we all do that right now. Mark Burzin, what has it been, a week? Last Thursday is when this order went into place. You've got a week of data, I guess. Sports did fire up in a little bit of way. Is there anything that you can tell us or show us in that 1 week period of time how this is affecting your business?
Yeah, I think not surprising. We ran a pretty straight line analysis. Hey, what stores are making or a good portion of their money after 10 o'clock, and which ones are kind of in the barn by 10 o'clock? And it held pretty true. Are some of our stores that are late night slice and a beer sort of places, especially our places downtown that right now are seeing mainly industry people knocking off work and coming out, took an enormous hit. We had forecast that the Ice House Tavern would lose half its business, and their numbers are down 49% through this first week after the shutdown. And, the double tragedy of that is, as you pointed out, we're trying to spread the pain.
Yeah, if that was your single location, I was going to ask you.
Yeah, over our platform, we're trying to spread that pain out. Ooh. But if I was a single unit operator right now, it would probably be, hey, I got to just go dark and hope my personal guarantee on my lease doesn't get called by my landlord, and hope I can hunker down and somehow scrape up the resources to reopen. But it's
there's lots of fight out there right now.
It's tough on the staff too, though. The tip bucket gets cut in half.
Yeah.
And unemployment has ended. Our bar staff at Ice House, and I adore them. Amazing people. They're just taking the brunt of this personally.
Fox 31 painted a picture with a piece with you, Ms. Riggs, talking about the attrition being up in the 60% or more. If continuing on, I won't paraphrase or set it up incorrectly. I'll send it over to you, but a bleak picture indeed.
It is, and that's one of the biggest things we've been surveying folks on monthly is how many of you will consider closing permanently under current conditions. And our most recent survey said 62% of those respondents said they will consider closing permanently in less than 6 months under the current conditions. 35% said they'll consider closing permanently in less than 3 months, and in less than 1 month, 5%. So we're going to start seeing, as we already have. I think we saw Vesta Dipping Grill closing permanently. I think I got a message about that today. So, we're seeing some of these staples that have been, popular restaurants starting to consider closing permanently, and it's not looking pretty.
Well, and I think it's hard. It's all industry, Sonia, too, and it's scary. Yeah. I mean, because it's the people who support the restaurant industry are losing jobs. I saw a commercial real estate report yesterday that, is shocking. 50% occupancy in warehouse space right now across the state.
I'd like to say that there's light at the end of the tunnel. No lack of effort. Again, everybody's doing whatever they can. I think at this point in time, we'll all agree it's resources, help. I mean, that's the fundamental thing that needs to happen.
Can I just add one more thing, Greg? Yes. Here's the biggest thing that we've heard kind of over and over and over from this industry, that on average, and this is on our last survey, 84% said that they're operating under below 75% capacity, even with their outdoor space. Now we've got that outdoor space. We're all guessing till the end of October, right? So this is where it gets to be a big concern, is that according to surveys that we've done previously, most restaurants have said that they need to operate at least that 75% capacity to be able to survive midterm. So just for a few months. That's where it really gets concerning, and that's where I think we really need to step it up on. What are we going to do to help this industry get through the winter? Because that's where I'm very, very concerned that the closure rate that we're going to see is going to skyrocket if we don't figure out a solution here.
And I think it comes down to where are we going to put the butts, right?
Yeah. Well, Brian had mentioned, that you've seen some solutions that are out there. I think that's where you're going to need some governmental help is depending on what solution they land on. Something like HEPA filtration, it's going to be a game breaker. None of us are running a NICU. So, but are there some low cost solutions that could, I think shutting off your economizer, there's an energy cost to that, but shutting the economizer off on your rooftop units, where you're drawing in, you're recirculating less air. To me, that's a slam dunk. But we need someone from the government to say, if you shut off your economizer, it's going to improve your indoor air quality from 20 times worse to 15 times worse. That's 25% of the way to where we need to be. And so I'm really hopeful that the state will turn their attention toward how do we improve that indoor air quality to a level where we'll feel more comfortable beyond 50%.
I can give you a nugget. It's UV lighting. They use it in the produce industry, and that's why I was tied to some of the articles that were coming out around this. Yeah. UV lighting, and there's the potential though is it's easy to retrofit, and so the government could give a subsidy to everyone to retrofit. So these are the kinds of solutions that I think we need to be.
I think you're right on over the target too, and here's what I would encourage the governor's office. I'm sure somebody will watch this at some point in time, either later on today or tomorrow. But these are the people you want to talk to. Plumb the brains of Mark Burzin. Your mind is constantly going right now. How can I adapt? What am I looking at? Those types of things. Talk. We need to really be that community together. And we have some of the finest, I think, here in the Denver area. Sonia, thank you for today.
Thank you, Sonia.
Thank you. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, you bet. Anything else you want to add?
No, well, two things I guess I would add. If you haven't checked out our restaurant bingo program, please look at that at corestaurant.org. It's a great way to support your local restaurant by eating out, or if you don't feel comfortable eating out, ordering in. And then, just in general, try to help your local restaurant however you can, please. We just really, and be nice to those servers who are doing their best to try to keep people safe.
Oh, for sure. And we'll see you Tuesday night for Summer Dinner Series, Chef Dana Rodriguez. Absolutely. You will be awesome. Well, I'll get with you later on that, but can't wait to see you. Okay, Tuesday night.
All right.
Thank you, Sonia, with that. Mark, hang on just for a second, because we do have our doctor standing by. If you want just 1 second, let's pose those same questions. Doctor, thank you for being patient. This is Dr. William Blanchett. He's an internist at Boulder Internal Medicine, and he joins us periodically to talk us off the ledge from a medical standpoint. There's no question that's a dumb question, and he sure has gotten a lot from us. Doctor, it's good to see you. How are you, sir? We got an audio thing going on here. Let's see. Maybe it's us. I don't know. Maybe
it's him. You got to unmute yourself,
Unmute
Doc.
yourself there, Doc. We've all done it.
I'm unmuted now.
There you
go.
All right. Are there any fish in that fish tank behind you?
I have one catfish and one plecostomus.
All right.
That's it.
I had a fish tank that was inoperable for 10 years, and I still kept it in my living room like most people in the world. Doctor, we have a good one here with us in studio, Little Pub Company, and Mark Berzins is here with us. He took place in a I don't know whether you know it, but district court, 10 p.m. last call and 50% capacity was contested the past 2 days. A lot of just discovery and posturing. What does the state know that we don't? Well,
right.
with some interesting testimony, and I'd love for you just to share that same testimony with our doctor and see what his opinion is.
Yeah, Doc, I was really
Perplexed.
I was actually a little persuaded toward the capacity cap by the epidemiologist cited some data that just talked about the chance of transmission as you grow these groups larger. Obviously, statistically, if a larger group, you have a higher chance of someone asymptomatic being in that group. That was no big secret, but she shared a few reasons, among them this recurring theme of aerosolized droplets being able to spread throughout a room. And so while I found her to be painfully misinformed about what restrictions we had in place, for example, she was unaware that pure bars and nightclubs, that congregating had already been shut down. She was obviously unaware of some of our other procedures that we're following, but that was one of the more curious ones. She actually had said that she was concerned to have more than 100 people, even in a space as big as 15,000 square feet, and she clung to that narrative. And wow. I know in part she had to, but I don't want to say I was persuaded, but at least she seemed to have a little argument about it.
Well, the reality is, you're right. The more people are in an area, the more likely you are to have an asymptomatic spreader. But I don't see a difference between having 100 people in one area versus 50 people in two areas. These aerosolizes, let me take a step back. We've been hearing 6 feet for a long time. The 6 feet distancing is based on the assumption this virus cannot be spread by dried aerosolized particles, can only be spread on water droplets. Now that we know it can be spread by dry aerosolized particles, the 6 feet distancing is not really as protective as we thought it was. And so, yes, the more people you have in a space, even a large space, the more likely someone's an asymptomatic carrier. But if you have two groups that are half that size in two other spaces, it's the same numbers. The same number game works out. And so the problem is we're trying to find a solution that will protect everybody in a world where there's not a solution that will protect everybody. And at the same time, we're missing some of the bigger concerns, the bigger tickets that are going to keep this virus going, that have nothing to do with restaurants, have nothing to do with bars. And that's, I keep hearing from you, the masking issue and the fact that schools are opening up and the university is coming back in session. When we see the increase in number of COVID cases when kids go back to schools, and when we see the number of increase, the explosion of COVID when the university opens up, whatever is happening on the restaurants is going to be immaterial compared to what's going to happen in the next 6 weeks after schools and university open. So we're beating ourselves together on half statistics, partial statistics, and the reality is we're about to step off the ledge and plunge into the depths when the schools reopen and the university reopens. And there's no way around that. And when that happens, who's going to pay the biggest price? The restaurant industry, because they're going to close everything down again. That's just the simple reality.
Is that a crystal ball prediction? that you have there, Doctor?
Well, here's the thing. The data is as follows. We know that children, high school age, elementary school age, children tend to not have symptoms. Most of them don't have symptoms. Those who have symptoms, they're fairly mild symptoms like a cold. I have a great niece who at age 5 developed COVID from her daycare. She felt fine. The only reason her parents found out she had COVID was because other kids at the daycare had been identified. They swabbed her, found out she was positive. So she lives with her parents who live next door to her grandparents. She's survived this thing no problem, easy breezy. If her grandparents had survived it, there'd be a 25% chance that one of them would have been in the hospital and a 6% chance that either one of them would have died. So that's the dynamic of just one kid going to daycare. Now we're going to have all kids go to school. The certainty, the absolute certainty, is that some of those kids will have COVID asymptomatically, spread it to other kids marginally symptomatically. They will take it home. Parents will get sick. Grandparents will get sick. It's not a maybe. That's a certainty. Let's talk about opening up the university. We're going to have 40,000 kids come from all over the country, perhaps the world, to Boulder. And anyone who thinks they're going to wear a mask and stay 6 feet apart and not share anything is sadly mistaken. With the few students we have right now is where we're seeing the explosions of little microbursts of COVID in Boulder is usually among the students. And this is something we're not talking about because we really, really, really want the schools to open and really want the university to get back together. It's a certainty. We're going to get an explosion of COVID when that happens. And we're just going to do it anyhow. We're going to do it anyhow. And so I bleed for the restaurants. Like my daughter's in the food industry. I bleed for the restaurants. I see what you guys are going through. And the federal government does need to step up to the plate and find a way to sustain this industry so we'll have it still when the world opens up again.
Couldn't agree more.
Which could happen within the next few months. That could really happen. We could have a medical breakthrough within the next few months. So that's, yeah.
Okay, Doctor.
I think the restaurants are sort of the whipping boy to a certain extent.
The governor has drilled down on 20 to 29-year-olds and gatherings and parties, and that's really what this 10 p.m. last call is supposed to prevent. My belief, and this is just my opinion, hold it to Greg Hollenback, is that I'd rather have the ability to have the 20 to 29-year-olds go to a regulated area where there's sober people serving them, where the sanitation is bar none, that things are being cleaned and social distancing is being regulated, rather than relegating them to dark alleyways and shadows to do whatever they would like to with parties. That's been singled out within the restaurant industry. It was upheld today in a district court. The ruling comes down that the remainder of the 30 days, we're 1 week into the 30 days, will be upheld. We're struggling, all of us collectively, with backing that up with any real data. This 10 p.m. thing is just so erroneous. It's just pulled out of the blue. We're struggling for reason. We would actually love you to take the stance siding with the governor's office to give us some great thoughts of, please put us back into, because right now we're really struggling to find any correlation with restaurants and fueling the 20 to 29-year-olds.
Yeah, I think that comes from the parents' songbook of nothing good happens after 10 o'clock in a bar. I don't see any science beyond that. And I tried that on my daughter one time, and she snapped back, said, "That's a lie, and you know it." So I don't think there's any magic about 10 o'clock at night. I don't know what this is. I think they're trying to do something. To their defense, they're trying to do something. They're trying to make this stop. This sounds good to them because their mom always said, nothing good happens after 10 o'clock.
That's so
There's
funny.
No doubt about it.
That's so funny you mentioned that, Doctor, because that's essentially was the state's defense.
Yeah.
Wow.
We know that the spike is, we've traced this back. We know that it's the private parties, that it's spreading among these kids, and we just have a feeling that we got to send the message. The governor said, "Hey, this is not the summer to party," and the only button on that console that is of any consequence to these 28 to 29-year-olds is we're going to take away the one time a week that you go out to Lodo or wherever, boom, we're going to shut that down. And so I thought that was pretty apparent. And I think even the judge had said 10 o'clock is arbitrary, 10:30 is arbitrary. The problem is the governor has the emergency authority to shut things down.
And that was held up today
if
in a big way.
If they think this will help even incrementally, and some expert tells the governor, hey, this could help even incrementally, boom. And that's why I agree with the doctor. I think when he says restaurants will be the scapegoats again, we clearly are an easy button to push
From the stream, we got a guy who asked, how can we help? Are you raising money for legal fees, letter writing, or call campaign? People out there do want to. Is this an exercise in futility? Is there anything to help with?
We haven't decided yet. If we decide to go to trial, it will get fantastically more expensive.
Can we use our doctor?
We could. We actually will have much more extensive testimony.
Where would you side on that, doctor? We the people? Specifically, do you see any logic or reasoning? Would you substantiate or support the state's call that 20 to 29-year-olds should be addressed within restaurants because it's less safe?
I think that dilutes what the governor needs to be saying. I mean, let me preface this by saying I like Polis. I voted for Polis. I'll vote for him again. But I think that to make that
sweeping
gubernatorial things without data, without evidence, without rational basis for it, dilutes the rest of the messages. And he needs to focus. He needs a laser focus on the right message. And I don't think this is it. I think this is a slip.
Another thing Chris Fuselier said from Blake Street that keeps ringing in my head is I was an attorney another lifetime ago for a hot cup of coffee, and one thing that I do know is no two similar businesses should be treated differently. And with the midnight ruling for the liquor stores to be able to sell until midnight, but restaurants not, was that brought up at all?
It was brought up again. A lot of this hinged on the epidemiologist saying, I would rather have a group of 40 young people that are all friends partying in a basement than I would want to have 5 groups of 8 young people in a more regulated bar or restaurant. And they feel the contract tracing is easier, which I think is probably undeniable. But the rest of it's a little sketchy, a
little.
Transmitting between kids that are sharing cups and ping pong balls and restrooms and taps and everything else. With 100% certainty, all 40 of them are getting it in that basement. And I did think I really think if we took this to trial, it would be really interesting. And I was sniffing around this because it felt like it was arbitrary and it was unfair, and nothing at this preliminary hearing led me to feel otherwise. And I almost want to raise the funds to take this to trial because I think it would be very revelatory how the governor and his team look at our industry.
As long as you treat that as a pet project, and you're not going to get anything out of it other than just discovery.
That would be the whole
good enough
reason
for you.
Well, I think
we'll back you 1,000%. Raise money for it.
My interest is that I do not. I was very disappointed with the amount of thought process that really went into this. It was really stuff that the 4 of us could come up with. If we said, let's figure out how 20 and 29-year-olds, let's figure out how to shut it down. And you said, hey, I'm going to go on Instagram and see where the hot spots are right now.
No, mine would be more direct. It would just be, at least the governor could have said, all right, if you get carded at a bar and you're between 20 and 29, I'm not going to serve you.
And obviously,
could you imagine that?
And he can't do that.
No.
And he can't shut down the basement party.
No.
The only piece
is you.
of that world, even if the collateral damage is all of the jobs and all of the industry and all of the 30 to 65-year-olds that also enjoy food and drink after 10 o'clock, even all of that notwithstanding, it is the one control point he has, and he chose to use it. And that it really is disheartening.
It's terrible.
And
you won the lottery.
But it's hard, I think, right now, too, Mark, is what, my input would be is that right now the hardest thing against you is data. Because right now you're on the wrong side of the data because cases are going up across the country.
That's what we're going to leave the doctor. We're going to go to that. And Mark, really in a world that
thank you. I mean,
the only thing that's certain is uncertainty, and nothing has rhyme or reason to it. You're seeing that. And you're a very factual guy. I know you have a very factual, segmented, data disseminating guy where you get out what you're seeing to your locations. And right now it's very difficult because you can't really make a move one way or another other than just hang on. That's all you're doing.
It's going to continue to be really brutal for all of us in the industry.
I think we need to get creative, though, and come up with these suggestions together.
Colorado, where are we at in Colorado, Doctor? How are we doing? Hospitalization, spike? They called it a spike.
I wouldn't call it a spike, but hospitalizations have doubled in the last 5 weeks. So we're down to about 120 patients in the hospital. We're now up to 250 patients in the hospital. In ventilator use is flat, so we're not seeing as an onslaught of people going to the ICU on a ventilator. The number of cases has increased substantially. The amount of testing has increased in proportion, but the rate of positivity has gone up. And so it's not that there's not an increase in cases, that we're just seeing more cases, because there really is an increase in cases. It's not dramatic. It's not horrible. It's not at a level we can't turn it off, but it's scary. But as I said before, my concern is when schools open. I have nurses who have children who go to schools. When schools open, I can't have those nurses in my office taking care of my 80 and 90-year-old patients because their kids, I'm assuming their kids are going to get sick. I'm assuming they will either be asymptomatic or pre-symptomatic for a period of time. And if they check the blood pressure of an 80-year-old patient, that 80-year-old patient has a 40% chance of dying if they acquire this disease. So I'm staring down the barrel of, in 3 weeks, basically shutting down most of my practice because I don't want to be responsible for killing my 80-year-old patients. Yeah. And so we're going to go to a Zoom-based practice again, simply because we are opening schools, and what's going to happen is so predictably negative that I'm not going to wait until somebody dies at my hand before I respond to it. So I'm not worried about where we are. I'm worried about where we're going. No. And the fact that we're not having more serious discussions about alternatives to opening schools is painful to me. So I'd like to respond to two things. First off, I want to say this concept of having 40 friends in a basement, I feel more comfortable than having 8 groups or 5 groups of 8 people in a bar. I want to go on record saying that's an absurd statement. It's not only not fact-based, it's patently absurd statement. Having 40 friends in a basement is a formula for disaster compared to having 5 groups of 8 people in a bar. Just, check me out on that box. Number 2, someone asked, what can we do? And I'll get back to the same saw I've been back to before. We can wear masks. And here's the math. Everybody with COVID on average infects 2 people. Everybody with COVID on average infects 2 people. Masks reduce infectivity by a factor of at least 4. So if you have 100 people with COVID and they're not wearing masks, in 8 weeks, that 100 people will have turned into 50,000 people, 25,000 new cases. Double for 8 weeks. You get 100 cases becomes 50,000, total 25,000 new cases. If you wear a mask, the data is clear. You reduce your infectivity by a factor of at least 4. So instead of everybody with COVID infecting 2 people, everybody with COVID infects a half a person. Take that same 100 people with COVID, wear masks, go down 8 weeks later. 8 weeks from now, if you don't wear a mask, you have 25,000 new cases. 8 weeks from now, if those 100 people wear masks, you have less than one new case. So on total, you've created 50,000 cases if you don't wear a mask. On total, those 100 people have become less than 200 cases if you do wear masks. When we wear masks and cut the new cases down to less than one, guess what? We open the restaurants, we open the bars, we go to school because we have a level of people that we can actually do contact tracing. To talk about contact tracing in Houston or Dade County right now is absurd. You cannot contact trace in Houston or Dade County. There's an overwhelming number of people with the disease. If you get the disease down to a very small percentage, kind of like where we were on June 10th, you can contact trace. We had to shut down to get to where we were in June 10th. If on June 10th we had all masked, Colorado would be disease-free right now. We'd be feeling sorry for the other states. On June 10th, we were still debating the mask. Today, we're still debating the mask. There are places in this country, in this state, that don't mask. And I challenge you to look it up in the statistics yourself. While the COVID in Denver has increased by 50% over the last month, COVID in Colorado Springs has increased by 400% in the same time frame. And check out the incidence of masking in Denver versus Colorado Springs. Check out the incidence of masking in Colorado versus Hong Kong. Hong Kong was all upset. They had 4 new cases the other day. They went crazy. And Hong Kong is a city of 11 million people. And they measure their cases in 2 digits. What do? They all wear masks. What do? We don't think masks are worth it. They're too much trouble. They're a hassle. We argue about it. We debate it. The answer, until we have a treatment, until we have a vaccine, the answer is wearing a mask. You got it, Greg, wearing a mask. And if that's all we did, this problem would die down to a level we could easily manage. We could easily open restaurants. We could easily open bars. We could easily open schools, and we could easily open universities. But because we don't wear masks, we're dealing with the economic and social and personal crisis that we're currently dealing with. It's that simple. It's that stupid. That's the reality. I'm sorry. That's where we're at.
It's too hot. I can't breathe. And I'm too vain.
You wear your mask. And that's why we love you. Do you see why we love this gentleman right here? That's Dr.
Here's the
William
facts
Blanchett.
that you were hoping to get in the testimony. You could get them from
Good
Dr.
stuff.
Blanchett.
All right, we're all in this together, and anything that we need. And again, the conversation just needs to continue. And I think that as we look for silver linings in anything right now, Mark Berzins, that's really what we can look at, is at least we're kicking the rock down the road, having the conversations. And again, I don't want to see you spend any more money to just get more information for yourself for the process. But if that's what's going to take, then I think we can all try and do that together.
Well, I'll let you guys know we're gonna circle up and with our attorney, and we're gonna see it. My guess is we'll probably sort something out. I do believe the Restaurant Association did not participate in this suit. And, so if Sonia indicates there's some progress being made on her end, maybe that's the most sensible thing to do.
Let's see what happens. Wear that mask, and you never know that 30 days might not have to go all the way through. It'd be nice to see the governor step back up and say, hey, we're doing all a great job. Let's loosen that up, and give it to midnight. Give us 11. Give us a little more.
With sports coming back,
there's
going to be a lot of games on until 11:30. Yeah. It'd be nice to have midnight.
Doctor, thank you. As always.
Always a pleasure. That's great.
Mark, I appreciate your time.
Hey, thanks, guys.
Yeah, you bet. We're going to break off, come back. He's been patient as patient can be. I've watched him look at his watch every 2 seconds over there, like the time is really changing.
Great guy and a great chef.
He is a great guy, great chef. He made us lunch today. We'll break off, come back. Chef Christopher Moore is going to join us next from the Lakewood Country Club right here on the Modern Eater Show.
Hi, I'm Charlie Gottenkenny, brewmaster at Brews Beers. Our all-new Abbey 4-pack contains the main products of Abbey and Trappist breweries in Belgium. So with the 4-pack, you'll get a single, a double, a triple, and a quadruple. One of each. Most monastery breweries will make 2 to 4 of these. Some of them make all 4. And American craft breweries, like Brews, that specialize in Belgian beers, will make multiple versions of the Big 4 throughout the year. So where can you get an Abbey 4-pack? Well, you can get it at either Brews location, 67th and Pecos in Midtown, or in the East Colfax neighborhood at Colfax and York. You can also find them at fine liquor stores throughout the Denver area. So get yours today and take home some Belgian-style badassery.
Hey guys, it's Brian Rizzuto with Encore Energy, the guy who saves your businesses money on natural gas. I know these are crazy, crazy times right now. So while your business is working on increasing your sales, let me work on saving you guys money on your natural gas. I make it as easy as possible. Just provide 12 months worth of natural gas bills to me. I'll do the rest. I know you're really busy, so let me get to work for you. You can reach me at 720-245-5771. I look forward to hearing from you guys, and let me try to save you some money in these crazy times. Bye.
We started Meridium Spirits because we love the way that spirits and cocktails can bring people together to socialize, to bond, to have conversations. Well, right now we've got some big conversations to have. Coop Vodka and Coop Gin are available at liquor stores across the metro area, but if you can't find us or would like to have us behind your bar or at your restaurant, send us an email, info@meridiumspirits.com. We know things are a little different these days, but think of us the next time you're planning a virtual happy hour or a socially distant picnic. And keep an eye on our social media, Coop by Meridium, for all the latest and greatest.
Hey, Dave Thibodeau here. Hey, friends of the Modern Eater. This is Dave Thibodeau from Ska Brewing and Peach Street Distillers. I wanted to let you know that our new brew distillery is up and running again in Boulder. And we've got a great selection of Ska beers, nearly 30 on tap. We've also got all of our Peach Street spirits available, a great mixology program that we brought down from the Western Slope and Palisade. We're open limited hours, Wednesday through Friday from 3 to 10. And then we open up earlier at 10 a.m. on Saturday and Sunday and get some brunch action rolling. We have 2 great patios. Socially distant seating is available. And you can always check for more information at scastreet.com and hope we become your new favorite neighborhood spot. And I'd like to meet you there in the not too distant future for a beer or a drink soon. So take care, be healthy, and stay strong. And I'll talk to you later.
Hi guys, it's Cody Ann from Aspen Baking Company. We specialize in fresh, preservative-free, amazing bread. But with all the food news, go right here to the Modern Eater.
All right, thanks and welcome back. The Modern Eater Show continues. Got a lot of stuff that we're doing this afternoon, and again, a sobering day, no pun intended, as the 10 p.m. last call and 50% capacity was held up in district court today as the ruling came down the pipe that deflated really anybody whose business depends on money coming in past 10 p.m., and especially off liquor sales. The resurgence of sports right now and wanting to be able to just that glimmer of hope, like, can we capitalize off of something? And no, it's a tough situation. And Mark Berzin's joining us today, Little Pub Company. We'll get Chris Fuselier on the show tomorrow, scheduled for tomorrow. So we'll get Chris on the show today. I'm sure he's equally as disappointed from the Tavern League. He's a very outspoken guy. So we will continue to follow this. Again, a 30-day order for last call at 10 p.m. We're a week into it. And as we just spoke to the doctor, it looks like we're seeing an increase. So, you know, some people would say, hey, listen, you're lucky the governor didn't shut it down like the California governor altogether. But, again, it is a big hit for that. SummerDinnerSeries.com. You want to see how
SummerDinnerSeries.com.
Just real quick.
You want to see how it's done? I'm going to do Jeff Rourke and A-Plus Beverage Solutions real quick, and then when we wrap it up,
in less than 30,
we can do the show. In less than 30. Jeff Rourke, A-Plus Beverage Solutions. He's a man cleaning tap lines all over the metro area and the world. He is world-renowned. No, he's our very own Jeff Rourke. It's a family-owned and operated business. He installs tap lines. He cleans out tap lines. He'll add a line for you, nitro, coffee, water, wine, kombucha, whatever you need. Jeff Rourke's going to take care of your tap system needs. Get some new faucets or just get your faucets cleaned up, because inefficient beer pouring does what, boys?
You're pouring your money down the drain.
Don't pour your money down the drain. Get a hold of Jeff Rourke and A-Plus Beverage Solutions, 720-272-3809. 720-272-3809. That's Jeff Rourke and A-Plus Beverage Solutions. Give him a call. All right, joining us right now on the stream, he's a very patient man. He's actually he cooked us lunch before the show even started. He even ran a few errands.
I did.
He ran around town. Chef Christopher Moore, he's one of our favorites. We've known him for years and years. We were just babies here at the Modern Eater Show, right? You've seen us grow out of the iHeart Studios, and we've followed you in your travels and adventures, and you do a lot of good stuff for this community, but we always want to catch up with you. You cook delicious food all the time.
Thanks.
You've landed where? You've got a gig, which is weird right now.
Yeah, I'm working. I'm executive chef at Lakewood Country Club.
What?
And, we're doing all our social distancing and still taking care of our membership and all the golfers that come out. So,
So people can't just go to your restaurant, though, can they? It's a membership-based?
No, it's membership-based, and all our members have to make reservations for dining. We're fortunate enough to have enough space around our clubhouse. We have, I think, 5 patios. So there's plenty of seating outside for dining, and then all our normal dining rooms are all socially distanced, so we're operating at a 50% capacity.
You got a lot of rooms over there. I've actually been to several meetings over at Lakewood Country Club. It's a beautiful place. But, Greg, what do you think about putting groups of golfers together, putting people out together in a golf cart? How does that work?
That's out of my lane. I talk restaurants.
Right.
Here's what I do want to ask you as a chef, though. Is now the time to experiment and find cuisine and call it flex and do, or is now the time to really reel it back in? That people's eating habits are changing, maybe back for the worse or more comfort foods. What are you seeing in cuisine right now? To where what are people wanting?
It's a little of both. Operating at a lower capacity and lower volume allows you more time for research and development, recipe development, which is great. It also allows you more freedom. And yes, comfort food, absolutely, things that are familiar to people. Those who are finally venturing out, after being at home and, seeing your husband or wife for X number of days and saying, okay, I got to get out and go eat some real food and go someplace. So we're still operating in that mindset of summer and seasonal cuisine, seasonal fish, seasonal produce, because as we've gone through this, especially as an operator, there was a point there where I was using 7 different purveyors to find one item because no one carried anything because there was no demand for it. So now that everything's kind of coming back online, the things that are coming available are great. But overall, it's the things that we do. We can put products out to membership, and they can say, "Yeah, this is great," or I've had better. And we take that both ways. We take the positives and the negatives, and that's how we grow and develop that way. Food-wise, we could do whatever we want at this point, and in that sense that we like to try to do things that are creative, cutting edge. Fine dining, not so much because people want to just be casual. We do like to do fine dining technique on plating and stuff, but it's not necessarily fine dining.
Great answers, really.
Yeah. And I love where you're taking this, and I want to keep going with that. Has the club looked at you look to you in the kitchen to sort of increase the services that they give to their members and give a little more benefit at one level, but also look at some new revenue streams for the country club? Is that anything that they've talked to you about, Chris?
We do. So when we all shut down, one of the things we had to do is the way we stayed open was doing takeout curbside. So we scaled it down to myself, sous chef, and like 2 other chefs in the kitchen, front of house managers. Members would call in their orders. They could read menus online, and then they'd call in orders and give us a pickup time. So our ticket rail would have 100 meals on it for an evening, and we know what time they're coming and picking it up. So it made it easier for us in terms of production. And then when the governor put forward that they can do packaged liquor sales, that was also a big boom because then we could pair wine and beer with what we were sending out. So I got quite a few letters from members saying, "Hey, we live in Lodo, but hands down, you have the best takeout." So right now during this whole thing, and that's heartwarming for me, and not only for me, but it's good motivation for my staff as well because they needed that. I'll be honest. I have staff members who come to work every day, and we are required to wear masks.
Sure.
Those are required in our facility, and a couple of them have come to me and said, "Hey, not sure I want to be here right now. And I said, you know what? If you want to take that time, because, I view it as I still have a job to do. I still have my obligations to the facility and to the membership. Mm-hmm. So
it's interesting. As you know, local is a mindset, and that was one of the things that I think we've left an impression on you, because everywhere
absolutely.
you've gone, you've brought local with you. And
yep.
You go to Lakewood. How do you do this politely? As you go on as a chef, and you have these great ideas but then you start getting beat down with food costs and sourcing, and then that one truck's real easy when it stops by. How do I have that one account and I can just check everything off the list? I can get my produce and my toilet paper all at the same time, right?
Yeah, I don't view it that way.
Yeah. The thought process that I'm going with here is that it takes a little bit of effort to do business in the community. It does. And sometimes it even costs a little bit more money.
Right.
So you have to be creative, like, how can I have less waste? How can I source this so it makes sense? How can I convince somebody else who's signing the checks that this is a good way to go, right? How do you continue on and not get chiseled away to where it's just like, hey, I'm going to show up, I'm going to put together and cook the food, instigate it, and then walk away. How do you continue? Is that a fair question?
Yeah, oh, definitely. And
well,
I've got a supplement for him, because I love where you're going.
There's drive and passion behind what I do, and if I, Colorado Mills Oil, and I brought them in my second week there, and turned to my GM and said, this is going to be a more expensive product, but it's a better product, because in the long run, instead of changing your fryer oil every 3 days, you're changing it every 7 days, because there's a longer life on it. And he, crunching some numbers in his head, says, if you firmly believe and stand behind this, then go with it. If it's a better overall product and we're going to put out a better product for our membership, I'm not going to question what you do. And so that's what we've been doing is I've been changing a lot of things. I'm going from bread in a freezer to using Aspen baking, because great breads, great buns, all their products. We buy focaccia not only for hors d'oeuvres and for some of our salads, but we make croutons with it just because I like that product.
So that's what I love about it. You're selling a dish, right? And in that dish, and the chef right now, you took two brands as an example and had a backstory.
Yeah.
He could share that backstory with his supporting staff, with the folks that, maybe his colleagues. But at the same time, that'll hopefully translate to the membership or the guests. Or it should, right?
They do.
Those quality of products. But at the same time, you must be beaming in pride. You're supporting another business.
Local.
Yeah, that's what we're trying to do.
That's it, man.
Greg, 2 words. Do you remember this?
What?
Barrel program.
Barrel program. Yeah.
Did you start your barrel program over there?
The barrel age program. I've been talking to my clubhouse manager about it, because we have members that like Manhattan's a specific way, and he's like all for it. I just have to get him a cost on a barrel. In fact, I live in Arvada, and over in Arvada is Rocky Mountain Barrel Company. So
he's a creative mind. I don't know if anybody out there is looking to join a club. But if you are looking to join Lakewood, do that just for the cuisine itself. What else, man? What else are you working on? What else is out there?
Just been,
traveling the world.
Following you guys on your summer dinner series. I'm looking at the calendar, like what day do I want to go and actually go sit down and eat. And
you need it, man.
And because just trying to think back of when was the last time I actually went out to a restaurant, because I've been, I work 12 hours.
Probably been a while.
I work 12-hour days, yeah. So, but that's the typical life of a chef.
Well, and you got a big family. You do a lot of nonprofit work too, on top of everything, Chris.
Hold on a second. What do you hear right now?
I just hear not the hum.
What do you hear?
It's a vent. Well, nothing.
Just the beautiful sound of nothing.
Yeah. Oh, I'm standing next to the reefer right here.
What's the secret?
Can you hear me?
Yeah. Why do we hear nothing?
You definitely don't hear a hum. You hear a little bit of crack, snapple, and pop. That's why from time to time you're, dead, is because there's something a little bit more involved in your channel than the rest.
I hear that a lot.
That sounds good. But SummerDinnerSeries.com.
SummerDinnerSeries.com.
Yeah, and be sure, here's the thing. If you're looking at Summer Dinner Series and you're like, okay, I'm going to get a table for 2, pause. Are you sure?
Get a table for 4.
Because your
friends are going to call you once they found out.
And I get so many people that and I don't mind it. Why? I don't mind it. They'd say, "Hey, Greg, I got a table for 2. Can you please upgrade me to a 4?" And then it gets real weird, and I got to change. And so I'm trying to make it. But if you're consider a table of 4. It's easy. It's $100 a person. It's a no-brainer. You
includes tip.
You get enough.
Well, no, it doesn't include tip.
Please don't do that.
Sorry,
again.
no, it includes liquor. Is what I meant to say. It includes liquor.
You get to
because the liquor alone is worth $100.
You get to show your gratuity and how you feel about the service when you're there. If you didn't like the service, don't tip.
Yeah.
Like anything else?
Hey, they're
sense.
awesome. All those people at Pizza Republica are like hands
Kick
down.
ass. Yes.
George has cultivated an incredible staff
has.
that's super talented.
Yeah.
They meet your needs like they're supposed to. They're not in your face all the time. That's just,
We're hitting heavy
great.
tomorrow.
Yeah.
SummerDinnerSeries.com is what you want to do. We're going to follow up. This isn't going anywhere. I'm sure the governor is going to comment on the decision that has been upheld, a poll that we put out there. Let me see. I'm just going to close this poll down of what it was. The poll question for today is 10 p.m. last call held up in court. Do you agree with the ruling? It's a 77-23 split. 23 yes.
Oh, wow.
23% yes, 77% no.
No. That tells you our viewership. Yeah. Now, hey, you want to tune in all weekend, though, Greg, around here, because guess what? Tomorrow we're going to be hooking up with Kermit for the trout
Kermit Crunch
from Frontier
well,
Ranch.
That's a great point. Check our Instagram. Our stories are always popping off.
Popping off.
Popping off. Streaming on Facebook. But the Summer Dinner Series, you can get tickets, summerdinnerseries.com, but go to our website's looking good.
Yeah.
Looking good.
And you want to see this footage because Sunday, our Nevada Farmers Market, we're going to be out there, and Pearl Street
That's your
Farmers
one-stop
Market.
shop.
We're hitting both. And then Monday, Petraco. It is an action-packed before the dinner. I'm stoked.
Both of you guys need to get out of here. I know that. Christopher Moore, thank you for lunch. That was fantastic. Brian Freeman, you got something to do. Jay Parker, we got a lot of work to do. And at 6 p.m. today, we're going down to Logan Street. Heading to Logan Street and Chef Rebecca Ferguson.
I'm envious. I wish I could be there.
She's going to put together a dinner for a group of people, and we were invited, so we're going to go.
Awesome.
Wish you could go, too. Okay, we're going to take a break. And Jay, Jay's going to do that now. Talk about Aspen Baking Company, and then we'll show a couple more spots from our fine sponsors. We'll get out of here, and we'll reconvene tomorrow on the Modern Eater Show. Jay, take it away.
I'm taking it away, and I'm taking it to you, aspenbaking.com. That's where you want to go for fresh bread. Week 2 of the Summer Dinner Series was Carly and Jim, and I stole one of those beautiful Aspen Baking sourdough loaves. Now, what I did was I put terrible clam chowder that I bought from the store in there, but the bread, I grilled one side of the bread, I carved out the middle of it, I grilled that with some nice butter and a little bit of black pepper. The fresh bread you get from Aspen Baking is like it's like finding a fountain of youth. AspenBaking.com is where you find the all their products: Bear's Claws, focaccia. Chef Christopher Moore was talking about making focaccia croutons. AspenBaking.com, you guys, they've been doing it since 1994. Nobody does it better than they do. I strongly suggest, if you're a bread lover like I am, you go to AspenBaking.com and you get some delicious bread. Now, I want you to listen to Rebecca Berry from Hot Schedules, powered by Fourth.
Hi guys, it's Rebecca Berry with Hot Schedules powered by Fourth. With all of the recent COVID rules and regulations, you may feel like you have way too many cooks in the kitchen. Well, fortunately, Fourth is the leading hospitality provider and partner when it comes to onboarding, HR, payroll, tax, and compliance needs. So that way you can keep all of those cooks in the kitchen and let us manage all of your administrative needs. That way you can focus back on your business and your growth plans. Give me a call for an analysis on how we can put that ROI back into your business and take those administrative burdens off your hands, because nobody likes handling taxes. That's Rebecca.Berry@Fourth.com, Rebecca.Berry@Fourth.com. And hey, you know what's cool, guys? Keeping your mask on so that way we can keep our doors open.
Hey, Modern Eater fans, I'm Don Trobo with the Annex by Ardent Mills, and I just wanted to give you a heads up about some of the great things we've got going on locally in the state. We're headquartered right here, and we're working with farmers in the San Luis Valley to bring you amazing Colorado quinoa. It's just like the South American stuff, but grown locally. We've got transitional wheat flour that's grown by farmers in Colorado and surrounding states who are in the process of turning their fields into organic. So we're taking that transitional wheat and turning it into flour, and now it's available for you to cook and bake with. And last but not least, we're now cleaning grain berries in Denver. So things like spelt or wheat berries or pearl barley, those are things that we're now doing right here locally and are available to you. Can't wait to share it with you.
Hey there, Barbecue All-Star. This is your year, so what if you weren't drafted? The only draft you need to be worried about is actually spelled D-R-A-U-G-H-T, and it's adult for the word beer. It's barbecue season, baby. Now get out there and grill your ass off.
Yeah, there we go. It's their summer dinner series. I'm a farmer. What's up, everybody? This is Kaibab Savage, co-founder of Savage Spectrum Winery, home of Sparklet, Palisade's newest premier sparkling wine producer, coming to you live from our vineyard. You can see this beautiful vineyard behind us. We're so happy to pair up with the Modern Eaters for the Summer Dinner Series. Check them out online, summerdinnerseries.com, to get your tickets. You can come hang out with us. You can try our latest releases of our Sparklets. It's the perfect aperitif to pair with these amazing creations the chefs are going to bring you. Can't wait to see you guys, hang out with you guys, tell you about our story, get to know you better. Hope to see you there.
Man, that was.
I just had to get hyped up. I just had to get, feeling good.
Hey guys, with Modern Eater, this is Rich O'Brien with Elevation Food Service Reps. I'm here with one of our sales newly appointed hospitality specialist, Felina Hilliard, and we're here in our showroom, and we've got our bar set up, we've got a lot of chai. Come see us, come see what we've got, and Felina can help you guys out in the world of hospitality with anything. Take a little journey into the 38th Avenue kitchen just to see what's going on in here, and as I come in here, I'm noticing, Howard, what are you doing? Nothing. Show me, what are you doing? Nothing. Nothing? Look at this beautiful equipment in here. Look at this beautiful... Chefs, restaurateurs, anybody that has anything to do with food service, come on over. We'd love to help you with menu development, love to show you everything about equipment, and maybe we'll even have a few pops.
Hey guys, Chris Johnson here, owner of Rome Sausage, your hyper-local source for all things sausage awesomeness. My family is proud to carry on the fine traditions of Rome's founder, Jerry Rome, by producing a variety of amazing sausage in small batches with an eye on quality, not quantity. Every batch is made here in the great state of Colorado by hand-mixing spices, utilizing lean cuts of pork to make an outstanding product. Sourcing ingredients and materials locally, we are committed to supporting local vendors, chefs, restaurants, and the entire Colorado food scene. Getting hungry yet? Brats, Italian, breakfast, hot Polish, green chili, chicken apple, and the world's best chorizo. You can source all of our sausage through a variety of food service distributors. If your distributor doesn't carry it, call us. We'll come direct. You want a custom item? We'll do that too. Samples, and of course, sausage jokes, can be had by contacting me directly at chris@romesausage.com or by phone at 303-296-7663. The Modern Eater loves Rome Sausage, and I know you will too.
Hey, Zach Ryder here, Colorado Mills Sunflower Products out of Lamar, Colorado. Your only local source, grown from a local crop to produce a local oil for local chefs. You can find it at Shamrock Foods, What Chefs Want, Seattle Fish Company. Let me try it one more time, then we'll see. Hey, restaurants, we're glad you're reopening. From Colorado Mills Sunflower Oil, we'll see you soon.
First, we partner with the best farmers in the world, and then we tell them, we will take it all. Process whole spices daily, blend custom spices to order, keep it fresh, safe, and flavorful, all so that you can get back to doing what you do best. So whether you're a restaurant, a food manufacturer, or an at-home cook, be sure to visit The Spice Guy at www.thespiceguyco.com.